Hello, and welcome back to the Baron Tipper Choreography and Control. For those of you working with this text, today I just want to add a bit to this page here, which talks about sound and our sound quality. I'm going to use the drum set to demonstrate what I'm talking about, because in fact, I'm focusing on this video about this piece of tape that goes around the outside of my baron and what it does. Some drums will have two heads with the center cut out of one of them, so you have a double head on this rim to do the same type of thing. It changes the sound. The question is that really what we want? And is that really what you want? I'll start with the snare drum that can really highlight this. The snare drum by itself, just any other drum, high-pitched drum. It happens to be the same size as most barons, 14 inches. If I turn the snares on, which are the wires going across underneath the head, that's what gives this drum its characteristic sound, why it's called a snare drum, because those wires are called the snares. Listen to the sound of the drum. Now, I have an extra piece of head, just like the tape on our baron. Listen to the sound without that. Just rings, doesn't it? High overtones. Those high notes. Put this back on. All that high pitch is gone. Okay? Now with the snare drum, we want it to be short and snappy. Let's take a look at this tom-tom over here, which also happens to be the same size as this snare drum and the same size as my baron. It's just really deep. Nice ring. Boom. Okay? That's what I like in my tom-toms. Okay? If I take this ring and put it on the tom-tom, let's see what happens to that sound. I'm getting a nice ring, but I lose all those high overtones, which were causing me a problem with the snare drum. But over here, I want to hear the ring. So let's listen again. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Well, as a performer, I play acoustically, and when you are in the audience, what you hear there, as opposed to what you hear when you're sitting at the drum set, is a bit different. Those high partials, they add to the sound, but they tend to get lost when you're out there. So quite often, when we sit at the drum set, we want the drums to sound here like we hear them out there. Consequently, you'll see a lot of people with tape all over their drums trying to get that thwop, thwop sound that they hear out there. Watch my fingers for a moment. When we hold our baron, we tend to use these index fingers up in here. We put our hand on it, but we tend to hold it there. Okay? So I've got my hand on my baron. Let's do that with the snare drum and see what happens. Without. Take my fingers, Do that. It rings like crazy. Now it doesn't, just by using those 3 fingers. So those 3 fingers give me the same response on my drum as this. Perhaps people like Cormac Byrne, I know he knows this, he's got his fingers on the inside of his baron doing the dampening for him. He doesn't need the tape. He doesn't use the tape. And he can control whether he wants those high ringing sounds or not. And that gives him a little more, and any of us really, gives us a little more width to the sound, from highs to lows, depending on where we stick our fingers. So one of the things I'm going to be experimenting with is a new head on my drum without the tape. I'm seeing that more and more with many baron players, professionals who are playing. And again, I come back to the same old thing. What sound do you want? And hopefully this will get us thinking a little bit about what do we hear out there as opposed to what we hear when we're sitting at our drum. One more thing to remember, as soon as a microphone is on your drum, the sound technician has all the control. And he or she can make your baron or your drums sound like whatever they want them to sound like. You lose complete control of your sound once it's mic'd. That's up to the sound technician. They can turn up the treble, they can turn down the bass, they can turn up the mid-range, they can change it all around. And it's up to them what comes out of the speakers. Something else to think about. Enjoy your baron. Have fun.